content. So what I'm sharing with you is how to track. So basically the thing is that you want to make sure you annotate. I can't say that enough. You need to annotate everything, and you need to have a system in place for doing that. So for example, I pulled out an old file from last year. So as you can see, I think you can see that. So anyway, but it has the month, the year, and then the business name. And only because I track multiple businesses, so I did a code for the business name as well. And I usually do color codes for different businesses so that they don't get mixed up. But here's what you're annotating. So say, for example, let's see. Here's a receipt. So here's a receipt I have. I'm going to cover their face just for purposes here. But for example, here's a receipt I have. And this receipt is just something I paid for. I was a vendor, well, a sponsor at an event. And so basically what I showed is, if you can see it, the account I used to pay, what it was for. And then I put sponsorship so I would know. Of course, the company name is on this one, so if you can see that, so I didn't have to write that down. I put the date and I put the amount. Okay, so that's pertinent information. So another example, something different, would be, let's see what else I have here. Here's a, let's see, receipt. So I don't know if you can see this. But receipts are kind of tricky because you can go somewhere and use a receipt, but it may not be necessarily associated with that place as far as you expensing it within your accounting system. So for example, this one here was breakfast, but it was for an event. So here's what I did. So I put the event name here. I coded it, abbreviated. So I put the name here. This was the cost to get in, what bank account I used, and then I even put on here that I posted the expense to my QuickBooks. Let's see what else I have. Anything different? So mine are pretty straightforward, only because most of the things I get, they usually have the company name on them, and if not, I usually just write it in. But for the most part, all of the information that you need should be on your receipt. So I don't have any that's kind of like really out of order where we would have to write so much. But say for example, say if I was paying, say you have office space, okay, for example. So I'm going to pull something real quick. Stay with me. And I am hearing an echo. Okay, so let's see if I can show this without showing all my information. So for example, here's a utility bill. So say you had your own office and you had utility bills and things like that to pay. So what I did here, if you can look real quickly, I don't know if you can see that, but so I put the date, I put the amount I paid, I put the account I used, and the confirmation number. So any information that I'm given, you can see that again, that's associated with that expense, I jotted down. So here's what you want to track as it relates to your expenses. So you may have receipts from going out to lunch, client meetings, travel events, training, seminars, things like that. You may have invoices that come in. You may have bills that come in from your vendors. And here's what you want to track on the invoices, on the receipts, as it relates to that particular thing. So all of this may not apply, but you can use it as a checklist to make sure you're annotating the information that you need to. So if it applies, you can annotate it, right? So you want to put the date that you're actually paying it. You want to put the amount that you pay. Why? Because sometimes they may invoice you for one thing, but you're paying maybe a smaller portion or however that works. So annotate the amount. The amount is always important. And then you want to put how you paid it. And when I say how paid, I'm talking about which bank account you used. So if you used, a PayPal, your PayPal, or your credit union, whatever that looks like, or if you paid in cash. So however you paid, you want to make sure you annotate that as well. And then you want to put your confirmation or reference number, just depending on who you're dealing with. Some places give you a confirmation number. Some places give you a reference number. Some places give you an order number. So whatever that looks like, annotate that information. If you're job costing, you're going to also want to annotate the job name if it applies. So, for example, if you're out having lunch with a client and it's in association with a particular job, then on that receipt, you want to make sure you write that job name so that you can cost it to that job. Or if you have a job number system, you can use that number instead of having to write the name. Same thing applies there. It serves the same purpose. And then say you're out somewhere at a training or a particular event or something like that, you may want to cost that way. And so you can write down what event you're at and why, because you may want to look back when you're doing your cash flow analysis, when you're looking at your budget and things like that and trying to decide where you're going to put your money moving forward. You can look at those events and say how many you went to, were they profitable? So it allows you to analyze your numbers and really understand the story that your numbers are telling you. All right, so those are the things that you want to do. And here's the kicker. Another benefit of tracking this information is when you have that vendor or a company come back and say, we didn't receive your payment. If you've had that happen to you, it's happened to me. And the thing that really works is to have your receipt. And so here's a brief example of what happened for me. Is one time recently here, I got stopped by the police because they told me that my tags were expired. And this was just last month, March. And so then he looked at my front sticker and it said July 2016. Well, it was only March 2016. So my tag had not expired. However, in the DMV system, they had my tags expired. So I had to send them a copy of my receipt from back in July 2015. So if I didn't do the things that I'm sharing with you guys of writing this information down, right, tracking it, and then compiling it and putting it into folders like this, right, then I could not have been able to get that cleared up, and I probably would have had to pay again, although it wasn't my fault. So that is the real benefit of tracking this information, annotating your receipts. As I always like to say, annotate, annotate, annotate. All right. So as a recap, what do you want to track? You want to track all of your expenses and income and annotate all of those, the paper flow. Any documents that come in, you want to make sure you're annotating them with the proper information, and it allows you to post faster when you get into your system, your accounting system to post. So here's what you're tracking. You're tracking the date. You're tracking the amount. You're going to put how paid, the amount paid. You're going to put your confirmation number or reference number or order ID or order tracking number, whatever information they give you there. You're going to track the job name or the job number if that applies. And then you're also going to track if it's an event or something like that, you can write the event name. All right, so that's what you want to do to make sure you're annotating, annotating, annotating. All right. So what I want to invite you to do, if you have some problems there, definitely, is there a way to set up an easy tracking system for those of us not good at setting up systems? Yeah, it's one thing you need to do is if you're going to track your expenses, and I'm not sure exactly what you mean by a tracking system. Are you talking about as it relates to tracking expenses and things like that, or are you talking about something more broader? So if you can clarify that for me, I can answer that for sure. And I'll give you a second because it is a delay. So any other questions? And unfortunately, I think the web viewers, if you have questions, I can't see those. So definitely feel free to reach out. So tracking your expenses. Are you talking about, how are you talking about tracking your expenses? Are you talking about tracking, annotating the information? or compiling a total dollar amount of your expenses you've spent over a period of time. And welcome, I saw someone just join us. Welcome, welcome. Hello, how are you? Who is that? Is that So Into You? So compiling your expenses over a period of time. Okay. And I'm still not totally clear on your questions, but here's what you want to do with your expenses. Oh, Jazz. Hey, Jazz. So here's what you want to do with your expenses. What I like to do, and so I'm going to back all the way up to like, oh, the smiley face. Thank you. To the beginning. So here's what I do. So here's my envelope for this month, April 2016. And as I have expenses and receipts that I, go out and buy things, I basically put them in this envelope until I get ready to post in my QuickBooks system once the month close out. And if you look at these, you'll notice that, thank you for the hearts, I appreciate that. If you look at these, you'll notice they're all annotated with the account that I use to pay them. Of course, the dollar amount is already on there. So sometimes you don't have to put all the information as I said, but if you can see that, right? So then what I do is I put them all in this envelope. And that's how I keep up with them until I get ready to post at the end of the month. Now, thank you. So another thing I do is with my digital receipts, because a lot of places give you digital receipts, or if you have things on auto pay, I set up a folder within and I use Gmail, within my Gmail account that says accounting. And so as those receipts come in, some of them I'll have just go straight to that email because I know they reoccur. They're the same amount and things like that. And then some I will have go in my inbox, but they are labeled so I can see them, and then I move them over manually. Papers and receipts are my ongoing nightmare. So you have to set up a system, Jazz. You got to set up a system, right? And so, so just to recap that with the email. So basically with the digital is, say an email hit my inbox, it's a receipt. If it's something reoccurring, I've already set up some rules for that. And so it's going to already label it to hit my accounting folder. Some that I know are reoccurring, they're the same amount, they hit the same date, I may have them go straight to the accounting folder as well versus hitting the inbox. And so what that does for me is when it's time to go and post, the only thing I have to do is go into that folder, and they're, categorized by date in order, is I just open them up and then I can post in QuickBooks. So I have like my Gmail open and I have QuickBooks open. So I have two screens open, and I just look at Gmail and then I post that transaction into QuickBooks. So if that didn't answer your question, let me know. Oh, thank you for inviting followers, Jazz. So did that answer your question? And again, we do have a lag in the response time for those. Okay, great. Okay, good. Absolutely. All right. Well, do you have any questions, Jazz? I see you jumped on. Any questions on tracking your information with your receipts and things like that? Okay, well, awesome. Well, definitely, you can go back and watch the replay. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And so my call to action is to you guys watching this video, even my replay viewers and the web viewers, is to decide on a system for one, compiling your receipts, compiling your documents, and then making sure that you're going to annotate them and put the proper information that you need, which will save you time when you get into QuickBooks and get ready to post. So can you guys say you're going to do that for me? So if you're going to do that, really it's for you because it's going to save you time and money, especially when it's time to file taxes. Give me some hearts if you're going to do that. If you're going to at least use the envelope system, give me some hearts. Okay, awesome. What about, do you compile like this? And if not, will you start doing that? At least putting all your monthly information. Thank you. Hey, welcome. Putting all your information into a file and compiling it. You know, all of your receipts,